telling your loved one it is work is not a bad thing. I'm not an expert in marriage, but I have a pretty decent one, and it's been running smooth for 8 years. One time my wife sits there and goes, how do you feel about this relationship? And I said, it's work. And she goes, it's not supposed to be work. And I said, why is a relationship not supposed to be work? That makes no sense. I said, when you go to work, is it work? She goes, yeah. I said, why is it work? Well, because I got to be there on time. I got to make sure that I do this. I got to make sure I do that. I said, cool. So why is a relationship not work? A relationship is work. And the reality of it is you have to treat it like work, not in a negative connotation. How do you do your job? You show up, you might do you don't want to do, but you have to be there because that's what gets the bill paid. Well, this is an emotional bill that needs to be paid because the moment you don't see your relationship as work, you stop trying. Just like how when you silent quit at work, you stop giving a fuck about everything you do. So when I said it is work, she said, that hurt. It's not supposed to feel like work. I said, but it is work because I have to constantly juggle work, you, the kids, and before we even had kids, it was like I had to juggle choices, right? Do I go to work? Do I do this? Or do I spend time with you? Do I spend time with my friends? Because a lot of the times I feel like men are made to make a choice. You either get your friends or you get me, and I am making that choice because, hate to break this to you, my friends were there longer than you ever been. And I've been on the receiving end of friends choosing to leave me because of somebody they just met, and I'm like, damn, that's cold. Because when it's all said and done and the dust settles, it's like you're not even, that person's gone and now our relationship's tarnished. So I look at a relationship like it is work. It is work. You have to show up on time. You have to put things aside for it. And when you don't treat your relationship like work, what happens is you get comfortable. And when you get comfortable, you get complacent. And when you get complacent, that's where the drift starts. 9 out of 10 cheaters say the same right? Where it's like, well, he was giving me attention and it's like, how the am I supposed to give you attention? You spend money, you don't make money. I'm the only one making money. How am I supposed to make money and spend time with you at the same time? So there's this level of like, communication has to be open. Telling your loved one it is work is not a bad thing because it is work, but reciprocation is massive, right? If you are putting in 100% of the effort or 90% of the effort and effort's being met with 10%, that's not a healthy relationship. If you're putting in 100, then they need to put in 100. Now again, if one of you is working and one of you is not working, then the other 100 that person puts in isn't financially, it needs to be emotionally. If you have one captain and one co-captain. If you're the captain steering the ship, whether you're the man or the woman in the relationship, then it's the responsibility of the co-captain to make sure that everything on the back end is taken care of. Because if you're gonna work, if I'm gonna work 20 hours and I come home to a dirty home, kids are not taken care of, no dinner on the table, I take that offensively because I've done my job. It's now time for you to do your job. If I'm going to hold my employees accountable or my friends accountable or myself accountable, how can I not hold my partner accountable? So holding your partner accountable is just as important as holding yourself accountable. You know, some of the stuff we were talking about, like, well, I messed up too. It's like, well, you didn't mess up. You were led to push because you were met with no effort, so you reciprocated that effort, right? I think that's a fair thing to say, where most people feel that way, where it's like, I did all this work, it was met with no reciprocation, so then I started to do it. It's like, well, there you go. That's the mime effect of like, you do, I do. So rather than continuing the cycle of like, you abuse, and I abuse, you abuse, and you hurt, I hurt. Because what do they say? Hurt people, right? You hold each other accountable, and if somebody's not going to be held accountable, if you owned a company and your employee was doing that, you wouldn't keep that employee. So it's like, hey, either things change or we change. And it's a lot harder said than done when there's complications such as kids or mortgages and finances. But I think if you're trying to avoid certain issues, that's part of the reason people go to couples counseling. And the biggest thing there is what? Communication. So it's like, I'm not saying counseling isn't important. I think it's a very healthy tool. But think about what counseling is, and it's literally two people just expressing how they feel. So you can do that without paying somebody. And if it gets to the point that you need a professional, great, because I understand there are some people who do not take accountability, pass the blame on. But if you got to start somewhere, you don't let pent-up aggression and pent-up frustration cause for the split, because that's where people start to go, you know what? I have resentment, and the resentment starts to build, and then that's where the hurt begins, because now your resentment turns to hate. And the only people that suffer from that are the kids, if you have kids, or the people around you, or your friends. So it's like, You make time for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You have to make time for work, friends, and family.